Call the July meeting of the Board of Water Commissioners to order. Reading of the minutes of the previous meeting. Is there any additions, modifications, changes? If not,
I'd make a motion to accept the minutes, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
I'll second it.
okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Presentation of bills and accounts. Well,
Yeah, all looks good. I'll make a motion to accept them.
I'll second it.
okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carried. Union negotiations.
I have a proposal from Sean Perlson, our longtime,
Lawyer.
labor attorney. Last time the retainer was $5,500 to take us through fact finding if we get that far. This time it's a 2% increase of $5,600, a $100 increase. So, and that's really only because we're a really long-term client.
Right.
So, we look for that to be approved.
I make a
So the-
motion to accept.
Okay, so the contract expires when?
The end of this year, 31st of December of 2018.
Okay. And at this point in time, we haven't done anything, this is the start, I guess.
I was gonna get to that, yes. We got it, the way this all starts is you typically get a notice from the union of their intent to negotiate a successor agreement. We got that. I always forward that to Julie, ask for the proposal. We got that. Now, Julie and I chatted this morning for a while, and she will be here on the 24th, next Tuesday at 10 o'clock, just to to go over any issues we have, that, things, and then she'll put that together in an outline of possible negotiating points that the board might want to consider, plus any you might want to add, and then she'll come back to the August meeting, and then she won't be able, she's not going to negotiate for us. In fact, David will probably come to the August meeting, because Julie's due the 29th of August. I said, it's a good thing we don't have annual contracts, because every time we negotiate a contract,
Yeah, wasn't she
she's pregnant. Right.
2 years, 3
So I
years?
said, good for her that we're not having annual contracts, or she'd have 5 kids by now. So this is only her second one. Anyway, she's due like the 29th of August. So it'll probably be David Shaw that negotiates for us, but
So your meeting is,
next Tuesday, the 24th at 10 o'clock, not next Tuesday. Yeah, that is, it's 2 Tuesdays from now.
2 Tuesdays.
Right, at 10 a.m. She'll be here. Anybody wants to, pop in, that's more than welcome. 10 o'clock in the morning, right?
Yeah.
And then from that discussion, she'll put together some proposals, also some things that are going around, so that we might want to consider. And then she'll put that together and she'll come to the August meeting in an executive session. We can kind of come up with a proposal, either she or David will be here in August, and then we'll start negotiating in September. Because she's already talked to the union's negotiator, and they'd like to start in that September, early October timeframe, and they feel that would give us enough time. The goal would be this time, hopefully, we always have this expectation, that we'll sign a successor agreement before this contract expires. It doesn't always work that way, but that would be the goal.
last 2,
It hasn't been that way. But,
never know.
you never know. We have a couple of things that are, I don't know if they're in our favor, but a couple of things have changed. We have a bunch of new employees. Our shop stewards are different, will have to be different because we promoted one into management and one went to Florida. This is a new negotiator for the union. So we've never dealt with him before, so the other guy, his predecessor retired, so he's a new replacement.
Now, do we follow the model of negotiations with other city entities, or it's independent of whatever?
It's independent.
Independent?
Now, Julie, when she meets with you, will tell you what her experience is and what the range of, what percentages are commonly. And she'll explain that there's differences between us and the uniformed services because they have final and binding arbitration by state law. And so they have a little more leverage.
Do we know what other water departments around the area have settled for?
No, but she will know.
She'll
She'll
know,
know
okay.
that. And she'll know what, she doesn't necessarily look at other water departments, but she'll look at, they do a lot of schools, and she'll look at like the school paralegal, the contracts, and also, because teachers have final and binding arbitration.
Right.
So we don't look at those, but she'll look at some, like the facilities folks, she'll look at those contracts as well, and some of the clerical staff. So,
Yeah, I mean, most of the municipalities, water departments are within the municipality and
Oh,
part
that's
of.
that's
They're not
separate.
Yeah,
you know,
Okay.
we're that unique blend of being a separate entity from City of Kingston, but, you know, Town of Ulster Water Department would
Is
be
part of-
negotiating as part of the entire town negotiations.
Well, I think her fee is really quite reasonable, I mean.
always has been. And that's the charge, that we get, I mean, we've never gotten a bill from them for, like, I'll call her up and, Julie, we have a grievance, you know, send it to me. She'll give me the written response or suggested response. And she's gone to, you know, we don't ever get bills for that, that's included in this. We're a longtime client, and we don't call them that often. Partly because a lot of it gets repeated, so I know what the answer's gonna be because I've been through it before. The other thing is our employees. We don't have employees we don't get papered with grievances. Usually we work, because we're a small group, it just doesn't happen.
No, it's more of a family.
Yeah, you know, sometimes families fight, but it's, you know, it's usually, the employees are pretty reasonable. So, I mean, it's,
And this will be included in next year's budget, because it's,
Yes, good.
payment isn't starting until
December.
right,
February 1st
February 1st.
is the first payment due.
Yep.
Okay, so I have a motion to accept the contract.
I'll make the motion to accept the
I think
contract.
Harold made the motion.
Yeah, I made the motion.
So I'll need a second, okay. Any other discussion? Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Bob seconded.
Bob seconded it. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carried. And one of the advantages, I guess, is that, the big thing is the health insurance, and it was always at 1990, was it 1990?
They're all gone.
Yeah, so,
We, back in 1990,
most of them.
we had a commissioner, a president of the board who owned a business. And so and everybody said, and the union employees will very often negotiate away something for people that haven't been hired yet. So yeah, this two-tiered thing.
All right, all the unions are going that way.
And that's kind of hard to administer, the two-tiered benefit system. But now we don't have any pre-1990 employees. So everybody with a family plan is post-1990, and they pay the 20%.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at Jane, because she handles that. Right.
Calculated.
Bobby was the last one.
Okay,
And
well,
so-
I knew it was getting close.
No,
Because we all knew from the previous contract
Right.
negotiations that split
Right.
was coming there pretty close about where,
Right.
you know,
And our individual employees are up to 10%, so they contribute 10% of their health insurance, and family plan is 20, which is unheard of. And there's no cap, where the city has a cap.
It's a great deal.
So, yeah,
Do you
well,
think we can put a cap on ours?
Talk to Julie, right? Well,
I mean, that would be something you'd want to do. I mean, if we don't have a cap, is-
well, their cap is, the employee contribution is capped. You're approaching it from, I think, that our obligation would be capped.
yes.
Right. No, the city, they have the percentages in their contract, but then they're capped at like $2,000.
All right.
So anything above that, the employees, so it's really not 20%, whatever their contribution.
No, I was thinking that, but maybe it's time to revisit how we do it.
It could be, and she'll, you know,
that's part of,
that's what she would
Okay,
be here to.
exactly.
And you can, I mean, even if she says, well, that's unheard of, we don't do that, you can certainly bring that in.
All right. I won't be here at the meeting, so I'll leave it
That's
to
fine,
you
all right,
to represent my thought on that.
I will.
okay, moving on. Cooper Lake improvements.
Nothing has really changed significantly, but remember last month we talked about the proposal to get, the permit for the tap you shook in?
Mm-hmm.
I got the proposal the other day. It's $80,000 from CDM.
just for the study.
Yep.
This is a follow-up to the last board meeting.
Yes. So, one of the issues we have, just to kind of recap with Cooper Lake, is that during the construction, it would be, the engineers would love it if we would lower the elevation. It would make the work easier, go faster, increase our costs somewhat. And during that risk assessment meeting that Bob and Dennis and the rest of the staff, the management staff went to, one of the things that came out of that was, maybe we could kind of split the baby a little bit and that draw half the water from Cooper Lake and half from the Ashokan. We have the right to do that. Now you have to pay for the water from the Ashokan, but it's probably a good thing to have the permit in place anyway, because in a drought, that's something that we would need to do. And once you have that permit, once you have all the papers it's not a lifetime permit, but it's much easier the second time once you go through all that. And the last time we filed the permit was 1981. So it would all need to be done again. New York City has a pretty rigorous approval process. It's pretty streamlined, but once you're in and you've done it, to do it again is really a formality. It's not a big deal.
So this $80,000 is just to go through the permitting process?
Correct. This is the important part here. There's two phases they're talking about. Phase one is to develop 60% design plans. And phase two is to develop 100% contract documents to actually make the connection and the final permit. Because they don't know what New York City is going to say in terms of where the connection could be, the $78,800 fee is only for phase one. It's only to get us to the brink of getting the permit. And then they'll advise us what the other will be.
So the cost of the permitting for this phase is about $20,000.
Yes, it does say that. Yes. Yeah. No, this phase is $78,080.
And that includes the phase 3 permitting of 19,700. I mean, the total of $78,800 includes approximately $20,000 in permitting.
Yes.
But it does include preliminary design, which you said is 60% design. It
Correct.
says up there under schedule.
It's 60% design.
And that's $48,000.
Right. So there will be a little more on the final design, as opposed to, and the permit fees are in there. But the application fee itself is a deal. It's up $25.
$25.
So, but they're also the ones that are putting together, or is that Schnabel is putting together, Schnabel, I guess, is putting together the comparison, cost benefit about how much it's going to cost, depending on how much lower we reduce.
That's shown.
Okay.
This is not a bad thing to have anyway. I mean, to have it.
As a backup, this is not bad.
Well, because I mean, if we had a big drought, you'd be doing this anyway. And I think it's an opportunity. I mean, obviously the money would have to come from our contingency, our capital improvement fund. We don't have a contingency or a capital improvement fund right now, but it could eventually be rolled into the project costs if we desire to do that down the road when we get to that phase.
I think this is smart to be prepared for something, that in advance that you don't. If you had to do it in an emergency, it would take time.
Yeah, we've done this, we've had it before. We've gotten to that point, but it was 81, I think, the last time we had the actual permit. And so the last drought in 2012, we started the process, but then it rained and we never finished it. This would actually be soup to nuts finishing it, looking at maybe having Central Hudson bring in power so that we could, instead of using diesel pumps, we use electric pump. that would make the city happier because there's no diesel. Would make it easier for us to maintain those pumps and service those pumps, and, you know, we don't have to be schlepping diesel.
It's that you did not have to have all this permitting process when they did it previously.
Yes, we did.
In 57 and stuff.
What?
In 57 and stuff, they didn't have to do all this
I,
stuff.
I wasn't here. I don't know.
But the last time we had, you said the last time we
In
had.
'81 we had to do it,
Eight,
because I have the permit and file. But I'm not sure it was as rigorous.
okay, I'm trying to figure out what it cost us in '81
I don't know.
in regards to that. I mean, that was probably an emergency.
It was a
Sure.
bad drought, and it was actually in 1980. It was the year before I was hired, so I have no idea what it was.
I'm guessing on an emergency basis, they would probably bump things up as opposed to something that's a planned process in regards to timeframes.
They bump it up, Jim, you can jump in here, they bump it up, but they'd still make you go through the same steps. They might expedite it.
Right, that's well.
They might expedite it for you, and I think the environmental reviews in the intervening years, the environmental reviews become more rigorous because we know more. So, I mean, maybe in '81, they weren't as crazy about you have a diesel pump on the other side of the dam.
Right.
But now you have to do full containment, and they don't even want it on the property.
No, you
See,
should
the
go
legacy.
electric.
Huh?
You should go electric.
Right, I'm just saying, so I think it's not that the city's gonna become more difficult, but we will become more enlightened about what we should do and what we shouldn't do, you know, and how, a little bit of oil, what it costs to get rid of it. I don't know.
We're more sensitive to environmental impact. that's
Right.
it.
And I think, so I think, I don't know what it costs, I really can't tell you. I might be able to, you know,
But the piping that will be put in is gonna be laid alongside the road?
Right,
Or
yeah.
in the ditch?
it would be on the shoulder of the road. And they have, the piping has changed over those years. In '81, I know for a fact, because I was there when they took it up, it was temporary, like a irrigation pipe, quick coupling. Now, they just rolled like this polyethylene high density, and you just unroll it, and it pops right up, and it's pretty.
That won't impact the environment.
I don't think so. It's approved, NSF approved.
So when you're not using it, it's just rolled up.
And you can rent that piping.
What?
So when you're not using it, you don't even have it.
Okay, so you rent it, and then when you have an emergency, you just bring it in and do it.
Right.
That's much more
In
efficient.
fact, I think the states, in an emergency, I think the state stockpiles have a limited amount of that, because we've asked them to put that in there. But,
And so at the end of the day, when the whole Cooper Lake project, you can roll this cost into the bond issue.
you could, you can also, yes, I would think you can, but you also can make an evaluation, you know, this is a known cost, you know what it would cost to make this happen. You'll know what it would cost if we ask town of Ulster to go offline, and what that'll do, so you can make some educated decisions about.
Yeah, I'd like to be able to get something from Schnabel to kind of figure out all that before we get
Okay,
too far along this line, but,
okay.
I mean, I guess,
This'll take a
Yeah,
long
wow.
time to year to do this.
Do this thing?
Yeah, I think it's, wouldn't you say it's probably a 6-month project or more,
About a year.
a year? On
By
our,
the time, by the time CDM puts it together and approaches the city, preliminary plans, and
right,
then you got the environmental impact, EAF statement, you gotta build environmental assessment statement, hopefully short form.
so we have an emergency plan, right? Well, we have an emergency plan, drought plan,
yes.
but that doesn't include standing permits from the city.
Right, we have to do that. And the last time we got about a third of the way through, we were they were expediting. I mean, we had, Paul Agrawal was our contact, I mean, I would call him up.
How long are these permits good for?
5 years, it says in here.
5 years.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna ask,
Right.
because I was gonna say then, so all this cost is all taken care of, this is permanent, and then just every 5 years, we
You
would
would
be
have to renew.
responsible for renewing them.
We're renewing it, so you're doing the hard work up front, and then you have to maintain that permit. You could consider down the road a permanent pipeline, and then to be able to do what Newburgh did when they had their issue with PFOA. They just opened the valve and started taking the water. They hadn't taken water from New York in years, but they had a valid permit to do so.
And I assume the permitting going forward would be a lot less expensive because they would do all the work at this point.
You just have an update.
You just renew it.
Well, yeah, it looks like the cost of the permit will probably go up in 5 years. But, right, that's whatever it goes up, it's
Right.
19,700 right now, that's what I'm looking at.
But that's the cost for, the permitting from DEP is $25. This is the cost of the engineer to do the work initially.
For the
The
permitting?
yeah, because there's environmental,
Oh, so the permit's really only like,
$25.
that's it?
I believe so. I believe they have it.
I thought that's what
No.
was the permit, I thought, okay. 'cause
No, I
was
think if you
thinking-
propose
Yeah,
something.
that's would be pretty expensive, I guess. for a
Right.
permit.
And I'm thinking that if you really needed to, if you propose something unusual, New York City would be well within their rights to say, you have to pay the cost of the review because it's extraordinary what you're proposing. But I don't think,
I think so. The cost of renewing is probably very inexpensive.
Well, it says, once issued, the land use permit carries an annual fee
yeah,
calculated by.
right, and I can explore that more.
Yeah, I guess, we need
Yeah,
to
we-
probably just read this more
We
thoroughly.
can
Yeah,
do
and
this-
figure
we can
out-
do this-
Yeah, I'm not suggesting
Yeah.
we
I'm not
approve it because we
suggesting-
have, when we
Yeah.
got it and.
But it does sound like it would, definitely.
I mean,
is
yeah, my
something-
first question is, what would the annual fee be?
I can call New York and find out what it
I
is.
mean,
You get all
probably a lot
the-
depends upon what you're getting a permit for. If you're installing a building, it might be more than having a pad for a pump and I guess it all depends upon what the design was gonna come out to be, but.
Well, there's also, there's a blank in here, this wasn't proofread when they sent it to us. Because under 6 project costs, not to exceed, I think it should be $78,800, which includes a 3.1 multi. So they need to maybe
Okay.
upgrade this. But I don't think the substance is gonna change.
No.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, let's look it over and next month I'll put it on
Or
the
again,
agenda.
if you look it over, you have questions, email questions
Yeah,
back
email
to
me
Judy.
because Tom's on vacation this week, so I couldn't ask any of those
Right.
questions anyway, but he'll be back next week.
Okay, but then we're also waiting, do we have any idea when Chernobyl is supposed to get that?
No, but I'll
Chris?
ask him. I haven't seen anything from that risk seminar. I know he was doing, but I will call him tomorrow.
I mean, that seems to be one of the biggest issue that we need to determine is what's the cost depending upon, cost analysis, how much deeper or,
Where's that sweet spot?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
I hear you.
okay. The comments back to.
I will, yeah, and, yeah.
587 Roundabout project.
Take it away, Mr. Clonan.
Nothing. We have an agreement. Judy has redone it to put in a few conditions on it. One is it requires any further approvals by the president of the water board, and secondly, that if the money to be returned, in other words, if it costs less than we have put forward, they have to return to you within 90 days, and if it's over, you have to pay them within 90 days. But the proposed resolution as drafted appears to be, I've looked it over, appears to be satisfactory.
There's copies here if they want.
Two copies before you.
And you have the copies.
Do I have all of them?
I believe so. I believe so. No,
Did you have a chance to read the article and further to see where the increased cost is going to come from?
I just, I get a tone when the headline changes.
Okay.
This resolution was sent by their attorney as a recommendation. And so Bill reviewed it and we discussed it and we just.
So this has been modified.
It was modified insofar as it said, be it for, on the top of the second page, it said, be it further resolved that Stephen T. Noble, Mayor of Kingston, has the authority to sign with the concurrence of the common council any and all documentation that may become necessary as a result of this project as it relates to the city of Kingston. And Bill and I added in there, and the president of the Board of Water Commissioners has the authority to sign with the concurrence of the Board of Water Commissioners any and all documentation that may become necessary as a result of this project as it relates to the city of Kingston Water Department. Our thought was the overall project, absolutely, deeds to things, easements, the mayor and the council work together. What we didn't want to have happen was the state go and encumber this board. I mean, any change orders, you guys really need to be on top of. And I don't think, anybody in the city objects to that. I think that's I just don't think the attorney that provided this to me understood how we were organized.
How much, refresh my memory, how much was the bond issue for?
I don't know if I can.
522, you said a 200 cushion, was it, so at least about 700?
It was about less than $1 million, and the cost came in at
522.
522, yeah.
So you have some cushion
We
in
do,
case it's
we do.
all stuff.
We do. And to be perfectly honest with you, Dennis, Larius, and I both believe that cost is a little light, that they didn't estimate
Right.
realistically, and when they get the bids, they're gonna see that.
We should know as they progress what, I mean, I'd hate to get there, you have 90 days, and listen, send us a check for 250,000.
We're gonna be there all the time that they're working on our stuff, there's no question. But the only part of this whole process that gives me pause is that on a normal project, we approve all the change orders. Or we work with our construction manager. We don't have any role in that. This is all being done by the state and their construction manager. I think all of us are comfortable with each other enough that they're gonna bounce things off Larios and us, but we have no guarantee of that. But yeah, we'll be there all the time.
But it does say a satisfactory completion to you.
Right. The state has been super about, what kind of pipe, what kind of valves, how do you do it? And we've actually designed our portion of the project as it should be. I mean, they might have done the documents, but we gave them all our specifications.
We went over there for a bond, didn't we include, wasn't it a bigger bond?
We did, we included, that's why I can't tell you the exact split, because the Cooper Lake included the 147 for the geotechnical exploration, and another little bit for Cooper Lake as well,
Yeah,
so.
there's a couple of different
Oh,
things.
the 800,000 for the engineering and 147 for the geo. So I think the bond was a little over 2 million.
Okay.
And we went over there based on their original estimate. Then Bernier Larios and I met with these guys and we kind of knocked the scope down a
You're
little
right.
bit. Because Dennis realized that if we, got out of the roundabout itself, we could make repairs and upgrade it as we wanted to,
Okay,
so.
so do we need a resolution
Yeah,
to
make
accept
a
this?
motion to approve the resolution.
Yeah, I mean, they would love you, not that they would really like it because
Okay.
I only got it like last week.
Oh, formalized,
Yeah.
okay. I move that we approve it.
Okay. Second then?
I'll second it.
Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
I have a question, you also have to sign the veterinary agreement,
What is that?
those other pages I read. That
This one, oh.
has to be executed. It has to be done in triplicate, that's why there's 3 copies. This is just the actual,
One was just a resolution approving, actually, the betterment, maybe we'll put the cart before the horse, doesn't matter. There's also a betterment agreement. But do I only have 2, Judy?
I have the third one.
No, sure.
And it mirrors the resolution.
It is, this is really.
That's the contract.
This is the agreement between the city and, between the water department and the state.
And the state.
And I confirm with Judy that you already have the plan specifications, which have been approved by your engineer, also by Judy.
Right.
So this is a summary, it says essentially that we being the state will install it according to those plans, and you agree to that.
And the city signed a similar agreement executed, the council approved it, and the mayor executed it.
For the sewers, okay.
So it would be appropriate to have a second motion to approve the execution of the betterment agreement.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion then.
I'll make the motion to approve the government agreement.
I second it.
Okay. Any other discussion? Those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carried.
Thank you.
Let's see where we go with this.
Yeah,
They're going out the bid when now?
Well, the bids